Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode. Well, this is going well, of Defy the Stars.
Fine wording there.
Final? Yeah, it's true.
I
had to speak with, I had to speak with Candor in order to, make a good intro. Baby, why are you squirming so much? I've got a happy space baby on my lap. And she's happy, except that she has to, anytime something touches her torso, she has to push against it. Whether or not that means she falls off my lap or not. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Don't give me that look. Anyway, so it's been a while. Unfortunately, Scarlett is unable to join us for the finale. He's got other commitments. So Carter's going to be an NPC for the remainder of the campaign, but the plan is to wrap things up today because Squirrel's life is changing dramatically.
Yep. If another delay was going to mean a substantial amount of time before I think several of us were going to be able to commit to
minimum of a month, and it's already been over 2 months.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. We have postponed actually a couple different times already, and so we're gonna get it done so that it's done.
That way,
because there will be an end. This will end.
Yes.
It will not be left hanging.
Even if that's space rocks fall, everyone dies.
That would be exciting. What an end.
It's one way to wrap up a stream in 5 minutes, right?
Cue Star Trek Rocks GIF.
Yes. All right, so it's been a while, so I think we all need a little bit of a recap here. Thank you, Dre. I have to remove workouts. Nab, if you want to do the thing while I do all the other things.
Sure. Okay, so last time the Martians showed up. Kai's people showed up, and the crew, instead of shooting and all that jazz, we decided we were going to talk. We are trusting Kai with getting the data thing. I want to say USB because that's essentially what it is, but we
big scary thumb drive.
Yeah, we have trusted him with that. We are seeing him to Ganymede, and his Martian friendos, after having dinner with us, have decided that we're okay people, and they are going to come along with us. Whether or not they will go all the way to Ganymede with us is yet to be seen, but we are on our way to Ganymede. Sorry, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit because for some reason my mic monitor is not working, and I'm not sure why. So I feel deaf.
Pull it down. Pull your mic volume down and then back up and see if that fixes it on your Go XLR.
No, it didn't, but it's okay.
Okay.
I'll figure it out later.
But yes, the MCRN Amphion Morgana class, similar in size but more a dedicated warship, showed up responding to the multiple torpedo explosions, the distress call, everything that went into your tangle with your stalker. Is that what you would call them?
I get secret admirer.
Yeah, aggressive friend. I mean, I don't know how you want to put that.
They just wanted a date, okay?
Yeah, but they have decided to, since you seem to have some trouble with some ne'er-do-wells, they're going to just sort of tag along. They're seems to be friendly. They do not know about the cargo, the special cargo that you have on board. So, because that was something, it's not widely known within the MCRN what it is, so that hadn't come up yet. And I believe, unless somebody can correct me, we're still, not quite halfway under your current, what is it, one
third, I think, because we have to make the Belters happy.
Yeah.
I know, I remember having really good conversations with Kai. I don't remember what they were about.
Kai had, I believe, where everybody had gotten to with him is that you certainly are convinced that he believes what's on the data core is important, and needs to get back to the MCRN, and he, I believe, convinced everybody of his good intentions, and that I believe for June, part of she didn't want to get it out there and didn't want more people to get hurt.
Yeah.
If that's what it was, if it was a weapon or something of that nature. But he was able to assure those concerned that it's not a weapon, and it should. He couldn't guarantee one way or the other, being a single individual, but that it's not like plans for some sort of new weapon that's going to be utilized to just be swatting UNN ships out of the sky, or, cause massive casualties back on Earth, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it turns out it's like a neural network program that helps predict ship movements, and the more information you feed it, the more accurate it gets, kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think you guys have been able to hazard some reasonable guesses as to what it is, and out of narrative, I will hopefully have some time here at the end that both you guys and chat, if there's any questions about, hey, what about this, what about that, what was going on, that we can, I will pull back the curtain and reveal the secrets.
Gasp.
As best as I can.
Secret is Squirrel never wears pants during these sessions. That's the secret.
I mean, hey now.
All right. Well, let me see if I remember how to get into character here. It's been a bit.
It has indeed been a bit, so if it takes a little bit...
We'll hit our stride again. Always do.
Here's the correct notes.
Okay, so we're cruising to Ganymede. Have we agreed to give Kai the bubble? I thought we did. Or the thumb drive of death.
Yes.
The chess-playing thumb drive of death, a.k.a. Nigel's best
toy.
friend.
Yeah, that's what we decided as a crew, that we were gonna let him have it back.
And Carter was like, I'll be in my bunk.
Pretty much.
No, Carter was here for that.
I'm
As of now.
as of now, he's in his bunk.
Yeah.
He's found Chester's secret supply of snacks and cheesecake.
Yes.
And he's going through it, and can't be bothered to come out for anything else.
And
Yes.
discovered he's become lactose intolerant.
Yes.
I'd say for sake of the story, because I know that he had been trying to contact his contacts because he's a politician in the in the Belter world. My guess is he's probably more concerned with whatever it is he's trying to set up for himself.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you that Carter isn't thinking that this is going to be a long-term thing for him on the ship.
Yeah.
So that's my guess, is Carter is probably trying to set something up so that he doesn't have to be on this ship anymore. As much as he cares for some people on the ship, I don't think he wants to be there anymore.
I mean, you work with Thomas for long enough, and you just have to leave.
Guilty as charged.
All right, so I think we ended the last session on mostly interlude chit-chat. So do we want to just fast forward to where we're about to get to Ganymede / whatever Squirrel has in mind between now and Ganymede, depending on which of those things it is?
Probably wouldn't be quite there yet. We'd certainly be skipping, a couple of days at the very least. Because I want to say you were probably still 5 to 6 days out, if I'm
something
recalling.
like that, yeah. And even if we were more than that, we can say that's where we were, because you know what? This is our universe, and we can warp the laws of physics however we want to.
Yep. Yep. Time is meaningless to some extent. We can, the trip has gone exactly as you would expect. The Amphion has been tagging along. Not even a lot of reason to contact. They've just been kind of hanging out there. I do want to ask, because I know it's changed at least once, but what exactly is the transponder that is being broadcast? Is it still the good news? Or did that ever change?
I don't think we
I
ever
don't think that
changed it.
changed.
I think
No.
we
Okay.
just left it as the good news. Once we
Okay,
had
I-
it, once we went legit as the good news, it stayed that way.
Okay. I think maybe it was discussed doing that, and it never did.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was discussed as a possibility, but never actually did it.
So who on just kind of an average day, average afternoon, cruising in towards Ganymede, a couple of days out or so, who would there be anybody up in the actual cockpit bridge space?
I think Thomas pretty much lives there.
Thomas sits up there, and when no one's up there, he shuts the door and just strokes the controls and smiles.
I'm driving a ship.
I mean, it only counts if you make the engine noises.
You know he does.
Oh, yeah. And gun noises as well.
Yeah. Okay, this one wouldn't even, given what happens, it's not even going to require a roll, but the communication terminal will light up with an incoming signal from a ship that is not the Amphion, and it's basically radio. So I guess as long as, would you have kind of the volume turned up so you can just kind of hear it, or would you have it cranked down a little bit?
I'd have it turned up because it may seem a bit backwards, but because I'm not expecting a message, I would probably want to hear if there was a message.
Right. Basically a matter of kind of if you had it set to, alert you if there was any communication, you had to, turn it on or off.
Yeah.
Or, turn the volume up. But you would hear a voice come across, Vessel, good news. This is the UNN Otter. Do you require assistance?
This is the good news. No, we're quite all right, thank you. We had to run in some pirates earlier on, but we resolved this encounter. Thank you very much.
There's a bit of a pause. Not so much you would gather as you kind of then start looking at your navigation board, and you can see the signal of of an incoming, a vessel that's under more thrust than yours, kind of you would gather to intercept. So not so much communication lag, more as the person is evaluating what you've said.
While I'm waiting for the comms lag to for a message to come back, can I just take a look and see what kind of drive signature they've got? What they are?
Yep. I would tell you without rolling that you can tell that it's a vessel of similar scale to yourself or the Amphion. But if you wanted to try to determine, specifics, that will require a roll.
I will have a go at determining some specifics.
Let's see. Probably going to be an intelligence as you're kind of evaluating the readings and everything. Well, I don't think they would be they wouldn't be broadcasting exactly what they are, other than their own transponder signal, which would match what you've been told.
Unless
So
he's
that
up to date on the entire UNN fleet roster, he probably wouldn't know off the bat.
Right.
No, it would be more a case of I'd be looking at the drive signature and sort of
Right. So it's determining, looking at the readings that you have available and attempting to determine. Okay. So I think that's more of an intelligence. I don't know what specifically that would be.
The only focus I have is research, so it's whether or not that would apply. I don't think it would, because that's more a...
No, I don't think it does.
So, pure intelligence. Good luck, everyone.
Oh, that's pretty good.
14. That is not bad. Just, yeah. You would, pulling up and starting to flip through the various instruments that you have at your disposal and kind of focus them in on the signature of the otter. You make what you would assume to be a pretty good call that this is a phantom class. They're pretty common. The UNN uses them a lot for, pickets and patrols.
Oh, the Expanse's flying trash can. It's the urban mech of the Expanse, basically.
Hey now, don't say cast aspersions on my herbies.
It's everywhere, it's cheap, and it's sort of okay at the couple things it does. And it dies really fast if it has to go into real combat. They look cool, though. I like them. Let me pull up one on stream so I can show people. Carry on.
And at this point, as you get that back, you would hear back over the radio. Good news. Please transmit your... basically requesting not your itinerary, but your flight path and, just kind of checking in where you're going, where you came from, that kind of stuff. It's a pretty routine request, all things considered. And I would also say on that 14, you see no evidence of any communication between the Amphion and the Otter. They obviously have to know it's there.
So I'll basically say, roger that. I'll forward them on now, but I'll take just enough time that it's not unusual, as if I'm just being a bit sort of slovenly, but I am going to pass the word, as it were, that Guy's got a UNN ship asking questions. My main reason my spidey sense is tingling is the ship we blew up, I believe, did have a UNN transponder on it.
It was not active. It was buried down in there. But
yeah. So seeing as last time we ran into some, at least these guys are saying we're UNN. They're not pretending to be something else. But at the same time, in the final analysis, recently the UNN has been shooting at us. So I think everyone should know. In the crew, I mean. So, by the way, everyone, may want to get suited up and come up to the bridge for a chat. We've got a UNN ship that's just pinged us asking for our flight path and itinerary.
Oh, boy.
Oh, good. I'm coming.
Chester starts getting back into his suit again. Makes his way up to the bridge this time.
So June, after she gets there, she's like, okay, what have they asked and what have you said?
First thing they asked was, do we require any assistance? I said, no thank you. We had recently been in a scrape, but we were okay now. They then pinged us asking for our flight path, itinerary, that kind of thing. Standard stuff, but given that that Nigel was able to dig out from the from our last encounter that our recurring shadow, who we blew up recently, had a UNN signature.
I'm hoping they just spoofed it or something, because they were pirates.
Yes, they were definitely pirates. Oh, what do they want us to be like?
It's probably nothing, but I would rather everyone was aware of the situation, then
Probably wise. Where? Chester looks around. Where is Nigel?
Down here, saying, it'd be nice if we had a, data core that would tell us what this ship is.
Did you get a read on the ship, Thomas?
from the drive signature, it looks like Phantom class escort, which isn't unusual.
Right.
A small ship, not too dissimilar to what we are.
All right. I assume you've given them all the information they asked for. I mean, we have a legit flight plan, so I mean.
Yeah, I sent it, but I was I took my time about it, like we're a slovenly merchantman, not a highly trained former Martian Navy pilot.
Mm-hmm.
You mean a slovenly former Martian pilot? Chester's looking around at the at the bridge and seeing the disheveled sheets and the hammock kind of strung from one corner, and there's like a can of shaving cream by the side of his thing. It clearly hasn't been opened.
June just kind of starts rubbing her temples, and she's like muttering under her breath about having to talk to Carol about getting a better cut.
June does not get paid enough for this.
Definitely not. I at this point I assume Carter makes some grumpy noises and says that he's strapped in and ready to go.
And just puts his heavy armor back on.
Putting his heavy armor back on. Yeah, I think he would have put his heavy armor back on because it's Carter.
I mean, it's bold of you to assume that it was ever removed.
You're right. He probably sleeps in it. Going to sleep in my heavy armor.
But
my heavy armor.
Thomas, you would have gotten a as you transmitted the information over, you would have gotten acknowledgement that they got it, and then the looking at the instruments, there's been no change in its approach, and it's not coming in at like full emergency. You would be aware that a Phantom could put on more speed than it has, but it is still seems to be angling to intercept your position and either do a flyby, or it would have time to kind of end over and slow itself back down a little bit if it needed to. June
looks at the instruments to see whether or not that Martian ship is still hanging out with them.
The Amphion is still hanging out. It's not like you guys were flying in formation or anything, so it's not right next to you. But as far as like combat scale would go, you're quite close together. And you can see that they haven't made any attempts to open communication with the Otter, and there's still not been anything going back the other direction. They're just hanging out. Likely just watching whatever is happening.
Chester also has instruments on his fancy seat, which is a novelty for him because he's usually in the kitchen. And he's looking around at things. It's like, should we tell them? I mean, they know, but should we tell them that we already have a MCRN escort and that their concern is welcome but unneeded? I don't know.
I don't necessarily want to say, but we're being escorted by the MCRN.
Well, I mean, we are. They said they'd give us an S. That was literally the captain. What was his name?
You say that. Put yourself in the Martian captain's shoes. If does he want to start an incident with a UNN captain?
Why is it an incident? We're all just talking here.
Well, no. If the UNN captain happens to turn around and say, "Heave to and prepare to be boarded because we want the MacGuffin."
But we don't have a MacGuffin, Thomas. Not at all.
We don't. But my point is that whether the risk calculus is going to be a bit, whether or not he's going to get involved, we don't know that. I would suggest I try and fly casual, and depending on precise placement out of character, it will be whether or not I want to basically line up the Amphion ourselves and do you say the otter?
Otter, yeah.
Otter.
Depending on quite how we're all arranged, ideally I'd like to put the amphibian between us and the
Yeah.
otter, but if we're sort of on the other side of them, I'd still like to line up because I want to be in a position where, say, the otter fires a missile at us, the amphibian can't be 100% sure if it's targeted at us or if it's targeted at them.
Okay. The otter is currently approaching from behind you, relative. So it's actively like catching up to where you are. So it would be possible to do.
As long as we're close enough, we don't necessarily need to be in a line. Because
No. As I say, without going into the details of precisely how in 3D space we're all aligned, either I want to be nice and tuck in a bit closer, but if that would look like a weird maneuver either to the Martians or the UNN, I would like to slip into a line, or if that would look a bit weird, I'd just like to scoot a bit closer.
I think if you're...
How it will be responded to is likely going to be a result of the dice.
Yes.
So exactly how they're going to judge it or respond to it is going to come down to that, as well as in previous interactions with Captain Yates, at least from his standpoint. So you can certainly attempt one. That would be, what is that, dexterity piloting? Is that where that falls in, or where does piloting? No, dexterity piloting.
Yeah.
Palmer, Captain Palmer, Nancy Palmer.
Fly casual.
Yeah, it's a 19, but a 2 on the stunt die. So it's probably not as subtle as you would have wanted it to be.
His shaving
but
cream
you
falls
certainly-
over and like leans on the thruster control.
Yancy Palmer. But you do manage to adjust your positioning a bit. That would close the distance, maybe just edge in front of the amphibian a little bit. So if any ordnance were to be fired, it would be very difficult to tell until the very, very last moment exactly where it was aimed. I would say you would have also managed to place yourself in such a fashion that anything fired at you would have to clear the amphibian's PDCs before like you would even have to worry about engaging. You've kind of, with a 19, you are very well placed. And then as you complete it, you would see or anybody that would be looking, because I'm assuming most of the terminals can be like repeated to other stations. What would be a handshake request for like a tight beam secure communication from the amphibian.
Do you want me to take this, or should June take this?
I mean, June's better at talking, but you know what you're doing, so I'd say either or. Don't look at me, I'm just the cook.
I'm just afraid that if I butt in now, they're gonna wonder what the heck is happening.
Well, they're trying to talk to us, so.
Yeah, I'll take it then.
And the amphibian is very obviously not using a more general broadcast radio to talk to you. They're going with as close to private communication as they can get in this situation.
In this situation, there's no way they'd be able to pick up a tight beam at this close range. They can stick it right on us, and they're way out of line. So,
yeah, I would think the otter might be able to detect that one is being used. Maybe, but they're not going to be able to intercept what's being said.
I guess if they're using a really powerful laser, Maybe.
That's what I don't know the Expanse technology well enough to know.
Lasers in the
you know.
Expanse, other than the stupid one on the Behemoth that they put in that episode, work just like lasers in real life. If you're not in front of the beam and there's nothing to scatter the beam, you can't see the beam.
Okay.
Jure, the otter is UNN. And the Amphion is the MCRN, and they're talking to us.
Yep.
Pick up the phone, Thomas.
So I pick up the phone.
You would hear the voice of Captain Palmer from the Amphion come across. Not overly tense. It's not like you're not getting the indication that he's overly concerned about what's happening, but he's certainly not amused. And he would just there seem to be any sort of problem I should be aware of?
June just,
no,
sorry, June just kind of goes, just say that we've had a little bit of trouble in the past and we're just...
Well, he knows about the trouble in the past, right?
Well, we didn't tell him it was a UNN ship.
We didn't tell him it was a UNN ship.
Well, then we don't need to tell him anything other than they're just investigating the distress call.
Sorry, Captain. We were no problem. We were pinged for a flight path itinerary by that UNN ship, and it's probably just me, having from when I served. But I've just got I just get an itchy feeling around the UNN. I'm sorry I'm not causing you any trouble.
I mean, no trouble thus far. Nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. But I just wanted to check in. Given your, how would he phrase that? Your flight path change that you just made. You get the feeling that the captain of the Amphion knows exactly what you just did. But he's
he
not
would.
saying
He
it.
would.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I suppose if there's anything that you need, feel free to let me know. They haven't seen fit to inquire as to our own condition, but that's not to be that's to be expected given the state of things.
Thank you. If anything happens, we'll keep you in the loop, Captain.
Much appreciated. And he would the connection would cut. Unless there's anything that you guys do, the situation will kind of continue for a while as the otter continues to catch up. And then shortly before, as you sort of plotted it out, they would have to make some sort of an adjustment to actually then start, reducing their relative, I don't know, whatever the terminology is.
Relative velocity will work. That's
There you
fine.
go. To match the trajectory that you and the Amphion are on, your comm would light up again, just kind of general radio broadcast. Good news. This is Captain Phoebe Campbell of the Otter. Unless you have any objections, we will join you for the remainder of your trip into Ganymede. There's been
We're all one big happy family.
rumors of miscreants and whatnot loitering in the area, and we'll help keep an eye out for them. Maybe keep them at arm's distance.
Does Kai know what's going on, by the way,
Yeah,
Thomas?
I was
Did
just
you...
about
Yeah,
to...
Kai would be aware, and he'd kind of be, it'd be the equivalent of standing at the door because the cockpit's kind of full.
June just
So-
looks down the hatch at Kai. And she goes, she's like, is this your fault? Is this your fault?
I've not contacted anybody.
Why would he contact the UNN?
I'm not saying that the UNN ship is his fault. I'm just saying, are all of these people suddenly converging on our location and wanting to take us places? Is that your fault?
They're going with us to places. We are taking ourselves somewhere. They just think that we're the neatest little thing in the area. I really, really, really hope that this is just a case of a couple of rather bored patrol craft crews wanting to have some kind of excitement, and so they're going to run to Ganymede to escort us and maybe blow off some steam while we get there. I mean, the food at Ganymede is really good.
You and your food.
Look, I've read about. I've not been to Ganymede, but I mean, actually, have I been to Ganymede? We would have stopped there, right? On the Bard.
Yeah.
It's
food at
entirely
Ganymede is
possible
really
that you
good.
would have passed through, either on the Bard or prior to linking up.
I mean, you remember that one meal after we passed by and we took on all that grain and all because the food, it was so cheap. You remember? They probably remember
Yes.
too.
They probably remember you. You're right, Jesser.
Not me. Not. They remember. Anyway, that's what I hope is happening, and deep inside, no, isn't.
Okay, so I wonder if they've talked at all to each other. That would be an interesting thing.
Yeah, but we should tell them. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
June, you would especially be able to tell from the tone of Captain Campbell's, statement, which is not the voice that came across earlier, Thomas. Even though she posed it as if you have no objections,
right.
it
She's
was
coming. Yeah.
you're not going to have any objections. We're going to do this, even if you have them.
But we need to tell them that they're going to have a magical
Yeah.
day. So
Yes. Yeah.
So
So you're gonna, Thomas, go ahead and just let her know that we have no issue with that, and then we should probably send a message back to the Amphion and just.
I have a thought. What if we encourage them to coordinate with the Amphions so that they don't have any, mistakes with their flight plans?
or
we don't.
miscommunications.
No, mistake with flight plans. We don't want to imply that they're sloppy with their communications. But they are Earth pilots, so.
Thanks.
Are you a pilot?
You're
not a pilot. Don't take offense.
I would suggest basically saying we have no problem with that, but could you coordinate scanning surroundings with our other escort, because we're just tagging along. We're not in charge and plead ignorance.
Yes,
but
let's do that.
They're tagging along with us. Oh, that implies that we're going with the Martians, not that they voluntarily decided to come to Ganymede with us.
Let's just suggest nicely that they get in contact with each other and just chat it out a little bit.
Just coordinate.
Yeah, just coordinate. And there have been a couple of times that June has gotten a text from Carter, and she is just doing her best to make sure that Carter stays as far away from this communication as he can get.
Captain Palmer, we have no objections to that. I would suggest that you coordinate scanning and our flight paths with Amphion. We're the junior partner, shall we say? We're just a little civvy.
Again, it's the quiet for a moment as you broadcast back, and it's I know in character you would have used the correct name. It's Phoebe Campbell is the captain of the Otter.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's not communications lag from time. It's as the kind of weighing what you've said.
They're having exactly the same conversation we just had.
Yes, exactly.
But would respond back. Say again, good news. Are you under escort or contract to the MCRN? Your itinerary and flight plan that you transmitted does not indicate that.
Oh my
Maybe just a
negative.
hint more of, maybe not suspicion, but definitely asking for clarification.
Negative, Otter Actual. They just responded to the same distress call you did and had the same kind of impulse to make sure you got to our destination in a safe and sound manner.
Go ahead and roll a communication.
Oh no.
Why? We're not under contract. He's not deceiving anyone.
No. I know it's more. I know you're not lying to them. It's just more a matter of. I want to leave their response down to the dice as opposed to just my own call.
Chester's forehead and his console very, very slowly meet.
Okay. 12. It's pretty good. And I will note all of the communication with the otter has been open, not been scrambled or coded in any way. So everything that the otter has said and that you have said, the Amphion, if they're listening, which you would assume they are,
recording for posterity.
Yeah,
I would imagine they are, considering the current tensions.
Right. I just I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that everything that you've said and everything the otter has said they've heard. So they're very well aware of what you're saying.
The Amphion's probably over there like, where's that June person? Why is she...
Why are they letting this guy do the talking?
I know. Why are we letting me do the talking?
Yeah.
Because you started the talking with them, and so June didn't want to just be like, now you're talking to this new person.
Well, so here's how this kind of goes. You have the duty officer, and then if things get serious, the captain comes on. So it's totally normal.
It has yet to be serious.
We just have a captain who doesn't want to talk to anybody. She's tired of being our face. Hashtag blame June. Thomas did fine.
Yeah. The voice of Captain Campbell would come back over. Acknowledged. We appreciate the clarification. And as they cut out, you would kind of at last hear the voice of the captain of the Amphion come over the radio. That's correct. UNN Otter just responded to a distress call. Turned out these folks were headed the same direction we were, and we figured we'd opt to keep an eye on them if they were open to it. We have no objections if you'd like to tag along as well. The response at this point would kind of go back and forth where, like, you can tell that Yancey he has his official voice on. It's very similar to when, like, you first would have interacted with him. But then the June especially, you would pick up on the fact that Captain Campbell's responses back are like as close to single word responses as possible.
Oh, no.
Does not seem to be trusting of the MCRN in the slightest. But no weapons are fired. That everything, nobody gets painted for torpedo lock, and yet. Just ignore the fact that the PDC cannons are tracking, vessels as they close. That's just standard, standard
procedure.
The otter would kind of fall into a position, kind of loosely in your neighborhood, and you fall into now something of a convoy, I guess, maybe.
We are
Nobody really
so
knows what to call
important
it.
right now. We're so important.
June just kind of like looks at the sensors and then under her breath goes choo choo. And she also starts singing an old Earth folk song. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Chester is just glad that his dinner was so well received that the captain of the Amphion and his crew are willing to hang out in stressful situations with them. He's glad that he made a good impression.
It's 100% that, and not that, an MCRN patrol vessel rocking it away at maximum thrust from the situation wouldn't have made the situation worse at all.
Chester chooses to see things in the way that pleases Chester sometimes. This is how
perfectly
Chester
acceptable.
seeks comfort.
Perfectly acceptable. It's 100% the meal. It's all down to the cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how the next several days pass. Just like before, there's not a lot of communication back and forth. But, you get up in the morning and both ships are still there. And they just kind of stay.
Rebecca starts complaining the ambient humidity has gone up for really high for some reason.
Yeah, June is like adding about 50% of that humidity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, it starts when she just sort of comes up to the bridge and asks if you're, Thomas, if you're seeing any sort of problems with the environmental controls, because she's adjusted them several times now, but she continues to see the rise in humidity.
Yeah, it's really hot up here for some reason. I just can't cool down.
So I assume during this time we're going to have somebody on the bridge at all times. Thomas, you live here, but...
Yeah, Thomas pretty much lives here, but June is going to be up here quite a bit as well.
Chester...
Yes, there needs to be an adult on the bridge.
Chester has taken it upon himself to pack and stow all of Thomas's bedroom into Thomas's quarters, and has been bringing Thomas meals so Thomas doesn't actually have to get out of the seat. Because Chester knows whose fingers are going to make this thing go fast if it has to be. Carter has finished all of the cheesecake.
Mm-hmm. It's gone.
I thought that the cheesecake was gone a long time ago.
There was an experiment. Chester made like a little cheesecake thing, cheesecake-esque, more sweet cream cheese and graham cracker. But there was an attempt, and that attempt has been consumed, and Chester only got one bite, and Chester's put out by it, but doesn't want to say anything because Carter's wearing heavy armor.
Also, Carter's providing the other strain in the environmental systems as a result.
June has been like placating Carter this entire time, just kind of like, we're fine, everything's fine, don't worry about it, it's fine. And because he is very happy to let June be the captain, he's just like, okay.
Yeah, that's true. Chester also uses the time to just kind of write a couple letters to his parents, just kind of telling them what he's been up to without any incriminating details. Saying that, through various random vagaries of fate, that he finds himself as the medic and mess cook aboard a private freighter, and that he's been mostly enjoying himself, surprisingly. And just kind of writes several paragraphs to them, just kind of let them know that, hey, I'm still alive and I still think about you guys, care about you, not really feeling the need to come home at all. And then he just, zapped those off to the nearest station, not using a tight beam, just so that the people, and he's not encrypting them, so that both ships can just be like, we're reading your mail, and Chester will just be like, yeah, it's fine, because he knows encrypted transmissions are just going to look shady at that point. And he just sends them off because he hasn't talked to them in a while, and he feels bad.
And there's nothing like sitting between an MCRN ship and a UNN ship when the entire system is on, high alert, just waiting for a match to get lit.
Chester did include a description of the meal aboard the Amphion, and how it was received well, and how he feels that his cooking skills are improving, and that he greatly enjoyed his experience there.
Okay, there you go.
Did you write home and say that you own suits now? Like, did you say that?
Yeah, that's in there too. That's in there too.
I own suits. I look good.
It started off with, I met a girl, delete, 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 delete. I met this woman, delete, 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 delete. My new captain.
Speaking of, I met this woman, I met this girl, I don't know how to say this. June is, throughout these couple days, every once in a while, visiting Kai and trying to sort out her feelings.
Okay. Kai would have initially been somewhat nervous at the appearance of the UNN, but he sort of shares the "it is what it is" kind of thing, and as long as they're not shooting at us, I'll call that a win. Is sort of where he lands on it. As long as you don't attempt to poke too deeply into what he's doing out here and things like that, he's pretty open about his past, where he's been. He would share stories of places he's been, things that he's seen, but not a lot of details about how he went from point A to point B.
Does he talk? Does he say anything about C-beams glittering in the dark? Because if he does, we're gonna have to send him out the airlock.
Yeah, for real.
So yeah, I don't know I don't think Kai has anything specific he would want to talk to June about, but he's more than willing to make small talk.
And June is so good at small talk. So when she's not up making it humid on the the bridge,
she's making it humid in Kai's quarters.
She's talking to Kai and trying to figure it out. I think over time she probably just admits to herself that she thinks that he's a nice person and that she hasn't actually met a nice person that is legitimately nice, even though don't have to be, for a long time.
Chester's soul, without knowing why, is offended.
I was going to mention that Chester's nice, but at the same time, Chester makes mean comments all the time.
Chester's an idiot, that's why.
That's it. Maybe that's it. He's smart and he's nice.
That could be it, yeah. I believe
she doesn't
that.
know what to do. Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Nigel, Thomas, anything else in particular? Thomas, I don't know how much you're going to do, because I think Chester might shoot you if you get out of your chair.
No, I wouldn't shoot him. I would.
I think Thomas might shoot himself if he got out the chair at this point.
Chester is going to insist that Thomas go and use the lavatory facilities instead of going in his suit all the time, because Chester is not carrying those bags out of the bridge again.
There are limits.
Nigel is going to be down on the galley deck, currently playing chess with himself.
Very open about it.
Yes, yeah. There is the loud whirring of servos from a drone that doesn't know what chess is, moving and waving around a little rook in an actuator, and it's spinning wildly while Nigel is looking at it frustrated and forlornly.
Oh, so sad.
I think at some point, June is gonna come up to Nigel, just be like, "Are you done being passive aggressive about this?"
Nope.
All right. At least you're honest. Would you like a human to play with you? I'm not great at chess, but I know how to play.
Nigel looks over at the broken down, twitching drone, the mindless drone sitting there, and looks at June and goes, Eartha know how to play chess?
Yes, Earther know how to play chess.
Nigel just sweeps the entire board off the table, then starts setting them back up again.
Good. I will be glad to play. You might have to remind me a couple of different things. So if I make a mistake, feel free to kindly remind me how to play. But I will happily play with you.
No problem, Eartha. Twitchy over here can teach you.
Okay. Good.
Let's see. Do we want to see how the chess match goes, or do you want to leave it as just an RP moment? Because we can roll
Can you
or not. It's up to you guys.
Can you imagine a roll for every single move?
No, it would just be one roll for the whole game, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying that would be that would be a really funny 5-hour role play.
It would be
This is where
funny for
Squirrel pulls
everyone.
out-
Go ahead.
This is where Squirrel pulls out an entire chessboard on the in Forge.
Let me just switch tables here, and we'll do
He's
it
like, I was
live.
prepared for this.
We can roll. I have a feeling that June will probably lose, but if she wins, this will be interesting.
Okay.
What would it be? Intelligence?
Probably.
If you're playing it straight, it would be an intelligence. I would be open if anybody was going to, try to do something deceptive, sneaky, or downright cheating. Leaving that as an option too. I'm not above.
I don't know how she would do that, but she's not going to.
June's jumpsuit pops a button.
I don't think Nigel would care.
Nigel's like, that's not
Nigel.
robotics. I only have eyes for robots.
Nigel would resist trying to say nice chest plate. Technology roll from
titles
Nigel
to the VOD on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
So a straight intelligence from Nigel, unless you've got something that would apply to that.
Oh.
Oh, okay. I would say, given the difference between the two, Nigel, you do win. However, June is able to give you, over the course of probably a couple of different matches, a bit of a run for your money. It certainly wasn't a clean sweep by any stretch of the imagination.
Arthur does know how to play chess.
Exactly. Eartha knows how to play chess.
Yes, Arthur does know. Arthur is a little rusty, so that was exhilarating. But if you want to give it a go again later, we'll see if I'm so rusty again.
You got it, Eartha.
Okay. It was a fun game. She gives him a nod and goes back up to the bridge to see what's up.
Situation's still pretty much the same. Remains that way through the course of the next several days.
Does Chester pick up on June's interest in Kai at all?
I don't know. Does he?
What is that? Let me find dice.
That would be intuition of some kind.
I would think so.
So that would be perception, because I have intuition. That's it.
Yeah.
Perception.
Nope.
Yeah, 7. Well,
Pretty low.
The question becomes, would June be making any effort to hide any of the feelings that she's dealing with?
Stonebreaker.
Not really. She's not a schoolgirl, and so she's not trying to be like, oh, I don't know what I'm feeling.
Mhm.
Ah. But she, it's her personal business, but
Right.
she's not like
Okay.
I'm in love with Kai.
I
but
know.
She, you know, but
Yeah.
she's not gonna be like, she's not gonna do that weird thing that most of the guys in my life have done, where they're like, oh my gosh, why would I like him? So like, yeah.
Then I will leave it for DE to determine the 7, because that is a routine. It is on the low end of the test difficulty scale. Whether he thinks that would be enough for Chester to pick up on anything or not.
He might see it, but I don't think on that particular roll, I don't think he would do the thing that I was thinking he was gonna try. So
I'd imagine at one point he like walks by while June like says something offhand to Kai, and he just kind of like looks at her.
well, it's so Chester. If that something like that happened, then Chester would look at June, look at Kai, and just kind of smile and shrug, and go back and just keep on without even doing anything. He would just carry on. If he had noticed it and seemed and noticed June's interest for himself, other than overhearing something, I was thinking he would have gone down and just chatted with Kai and be like, she likes fancy clothes, she likes this, she likes that.
I'm setting you up for success, mate.
Setting you up for
It's
success
fine.
because I want you to make her happy. She's a good person. You know, stuff like that. But
Poor Kai.
but
Kai would be
he
like,
didn't.
what?
But he didn't because his roll was so
know.
low. He was just like, oh, I think she kind of thinks he's cute. Oh, okay. All right. Chester is aware he's attracted to June, but is not pursuing that.
To
really.
be fair, who is not attracted to June?
Exactly.
in a low,
Nigel.
in a low kind of.
Nigel
yeah,
is not
that's
because she
true.
is not made out of robotics. And Rebecca isn't either because she is not a fusion engine.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, the next several days pass. You kind of get used to the tension, I suppose. Everybody probably takes to watching the clock or bugging Thomas for an ETA to Ganymede. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Kind of
Thomas's
question.
eyes
Let's go
slowly
faster.
sink into his skull.
Candor. I just saw that in chat. Oh.
Nothing would change too much, though. I do need, as we kind of move into the last 18 hours or so, you're less than a day out from Ganymede. Thomas, go ahead and make a perception. What would that be? C? No, actually, I'll put this down as a piloting, because it's reading the instruments, and I think that's more of a piloting. So go ahead and do that as a. Yeah.
Okay.
$13, and it's not telling me what the. For whatever reason, it's not loading me to tell me what the drama die is on that one. But that's a pretty good.
Andromeda
roll.
is a
It's a
3.
3.
3. Okay. You sort of get used to, keeping an eye on this little convoy that you have going on, and nothing really changes too much. If the otter shifts position a little bit, the amphion shifts, again, or it's almost, there's an ebb and flow to things. As anybody tries to, not that anybody's made any obvious maneuvers to do something aggressive or appear that way. But there's usually, if one ship changes position a little bit, the other two, have fallen into, changing up in response to just sort of keep this balance in place. And it would have
As a
settled into one of those things where, just like when you moved in a little closer to the Amphion as the otter approached, you're all kind of close enough now that, short of closing to knife fighting range and opening up with PDCs, firing at any one ship would be very difficult to determine from the other two who's actually being shot at any point in time. So this very sort of tense in I guess to a micro example of the tension that the entire system is dealing with at the moment.
I was going to say, is this how we find out what the spark was for the fight over Ganymede? Those three coming in and
was you guys showing up, and then everybody just, you're the match that.
And Chester didn't have enough cheesecake, and so everybody got angry because Carter ate it all. # blame Carter.
There you go. And everything's remained the same so much over the last couple of days. You kind of have to do a double take when you realize that just at the edge of your sensor range, you're starting to pick up, another signal, another one. That you're kind of up to by about the time you hit 4 new ones, you're getting there's a broadcast from the Amphion, specifically directed to you, but again, this is not tight beam, so they're aware that the otter would be listening in, from the Captain Yancey. Good news. Are you picking up? And he would specify the sensor quadrant that you're picking up some signals from. Any unusual activity?
Yes, Captain. We've just picked up a few contacts ourselves in that direction. They running without transponders or something?
Not that we're not reading anything. Any chance these are friends of yours?
Captain, I think at the moment you're our only friend.
There you go. Well,
Chester closes his faceplate.
I'm honored you would feel that way. How would the conversation proceed from here? And you gathered from the way the emphasis that he put on the word friends, that he was referring to, the incident that originally brought you into, orbit around each other, in how he was asking, and he would then now specifically address the UNN Otter. Is there any chance that this is UNN activity of some sort that wouldn't require any additional attention? There's a bit of time. You would, I don't know, who all would be in and around the bridge at this point, or be aware of the goings on? Is it still just Thomas, or
I'm in there for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
At this
there.
precise moment, Thomas and Candor are going to dash down the thing and visit the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute.
Yep. As Thomas dives out of his chair and heads down the ladder, you might get the idea, given the amount of time, the delay, because you've been around military vessels in the past, on the, at least listening to the communications of them as you've been around the bridge of the Bard and so on. There's really no reason that the captain of the Otter wouldn't have been there listening, or the chances of them happening to be off the bridge at that time. So the delay in response from the Otter, you gather, is very definitely
It's calculated.
a calculated and to some extent, it's I'm important, so I'm going to make you wait kind of vibe is what you get.
What a joke.
Yeah. And eventually Captain Phoebe does come back over. MCR and Amphion, we can either confirm nor deny any UNN activity in the area, but we do have them on our scopes.
She's so helpful.
June just kind of is watching very intently the sensors now.
And like the entire, like, as this conversation has happened, the number of contacts has ticked up a little bit further. There's probably half a dozen or so. They're small, possibly even somewhat smaller than any of the three vessels currently present, but that's a pretty good number.
Chester is
there are no transponders. There's no IFF of any sort being broadcast.
Chester's going to dig way back deep in his training and start manipulating the sensor controls and try to put basically an extra strong radar pulse at the contacts to see if he can get any more information from them. And he's telling June and Thomas that he's going to do this at the same time so that they can also watch and hopefully glean any information from what's going to happen. He calls down Rebecca and makes sure it's okay to do it because he doesn't want to break her ship and he doesn't want to get yelled at again.
Rebecca would give you the affirmative. Well, it seems like poor Chester almost can't win when it comes to Rebecca because she almost seems insulted that you would insinuate that a ship under her care is not at 100% when she's had time to work on it. But then it's Rebecca, and there's no way that she would pick up on, like, that she would be passive aggressive like that because it's Rebecca and you don't know if she knows how to be passive aggressive. But
except it's Chester, and of course she is.
Yeah. So, but she would inform you that the you would be perfectly acceptable or perfectly able to request one ping only.
If Chester had a charisma score, it would be -3, I think. All right. Well, then he's gonna push the button, and I'm assuming there's a roll here.
Yes, and I would, all of you can go ahead and make this because you'll all be able to look at the information that comes back.
Is there anything that, from a piloting point of view, that I could do to make this easier? As in, sort of, I don't know if we have a particularly strong sensor set roll, so that's presented, or.
Well, that's what basically the ping is going to be made, and then you will all be rolling to see what information you're able to glean from it, if that makes sense.
Can I use intelligence for this?
Yeah, and I'm very much open to, like, because all of you are going to be looking at it from a different lens, so to speak. So it's not that all three of you have to roll, or all four of you, excuse me, have to roll the same thing.
Well, we're going to get Nigel's intelligence technology, which is, a 3 + 2.
Oh, Chester, you're much better at reading machines than ladies.
Oh, for some reason that went through twice.
That's all right. Let's see. Thomas. Well, we'll keep the 12.
Sure, because the 11 went first on my
Holy
screen,
cow,
so
I
yeah, that'd
generated
be fine.
6 stunt points.
Is there anything that you would want to do with your stunt points, Chester?
You'd have to look.
Yeah, and it has been a while.
Well, I don't have to look because we can just make something up, and if the DM's okay with it. Let's see. So it's a radar pulse. It's coming back. If at all possible, he'd like the radar pulse to perhaps increase a test number for any target. Like it messes with the sensors on the ships that he's pinging. That if they make an attack, the first attack against the Good News, or I guess just the first attack, would have a slightly higher target number or something. Just like it messes with their receivers because they just got a lot of juice plugged through them.
I'd be fine with that.
I basically just burned the paint off their hull with a radar pulse.
A little bit. Definitely, it's like shining the 1,000 lumen flashlight, kind of right at somebody when they think they're being sneaky, and just
hello.
We see you. Well, I will tell you. Let's see. So with all your results combined, everybody's pretty close. Chester running the highest with a 17. First, you don't get anything back. There's nothing that you can determine as far as a classification for the ship. So it seems like it's a pretty. They're also non-standard. They're not really the readings that you're getting aren't the same. So if there's, it wouldn't look like 6 Phantom class running in formation.
Right.
They would look much more similar. That kind of thing.
So I'm getting each one of the contacts has a distinct radar reflection.
Yeah, they're all just a little bit different. So it's not something you would expect from UNN or MCRN necessarily. Nobody really knows when it comes to the OPA. I don't even think the OPA knows what the OPA has going on half the time.
I was going to ask what the acceleration is, but that just kind of confirmed what you just said, what I thought they were. So
yeah,
it's Carter's fault.
They do run. That you do confirm that, like, individually, all of them would appear to be smaller than any of your 3 or any of the 3 ships that are there. Of course, you don't have really any idea what. I don't think with a radar pulse you would get back any information on what weapons they may or may not have.
No, that wouldn't. I would just know how big
but
they
there
are,
6 of them,
and kind of how fast they're going ish.
Yeah. They are putting on a lot of acceleration. They're gaining ground. Like, as you've watched this, happen, they're closing quick.
Those look. I'm gonna say those look like Belter ships to me, and they're going way faster than Belter ships just flying around are going. I think we should scoot towards Ganymede. I guess we're decelerating towards Ganymede now, aren't we?
Yeah, you'd probably be in the process of doing so. Shedding some relative velocity. I think I'm using that term right.
Mm-hmm. Should we get Carter up here and try and talk to them? If they're Belters, maybe he's got some influence with them.
If they're closing on us like that, I don't think they're interested in talking.
We should still try to talk first before jumping to the torpedoes, because that's how you run out of torpedoes, Thomas, and I know that would make you sad.
June sends a text immediately to Carter, by the way.
Okay.
And it's just like, Carter, what the heck? Did you do something? We have a whole bunch of OPA ships coming in.
Well, we don't know they're OPA, we just know that they're Belter ships.
Okay.
They're
Belter
not the
ships.
same thing.
To June, they pretty much are.
Wow.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Carter would respond that there's nothing. Basically, he doesn't know who they are. He didn't call them. And you would see, like, he would go from his room, as long as you don't, stop him. He would be able to initiate a broadcast from there. Basically with the hi, howdy, what's going on, guys, kind of question. And there's not any response.
Oh, hey, how you doing out there, eh? Yeah, what you doing, okay? You all right over there?
Yeah.
Well, you're coming at us a little bit faster. It's making me a little bit nervous, okay?
Yeah.
My Minnesotan's a little rusty, but it's all right.
That's okay.
I'm pretty sure that sounded Canadian to me. But...
Minnesotans and Canadians sound very
triggered,
similar. It's a
They
very
are
similar.
very similar. Minnesota and, yeah, they are extremely similar.
I was about to ask about the poutine there, eh?
Okay, we don't put any of that gravy stuff on our french fries, all right? So why don't you just get on out of here with that, all right? I'm just going to get some ketchup.
Anyway.
And thus the problem of trying to get the OPA to coordinate. It's just like that conversation right there. Only people have much shorter tempers about it. Much less polite.
And they don't have any ketchup or gravy. Hey,
yeah, you basically then, June, you get back a message from him that's, the text version of a, I don't know, shrug.
An actual shruggy.
Yeah.
It's just the waving hands emote that they do, but it's in text form.
Yeah, shruggy.
Yeah. And basically that they don't seem to be friends of his.
Okay.
It would probably be followed up by, whether there would be an official like torpedo emoji or not. But basically the advocating
Welcome
for
to the
dealing
banana
with them in
band.
a permanent fashion.
I see. Well, only June sees that, so.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't see.
And about now, again, Captain Yancey would come over the radio. Well, if they're not friends of yours, and if they're not friends of the otters over there, they definitely don't seem to be approaching in a peaceful fashion. So if there's no objections, we will go ahead and fall back. And again, like as he's saying this, the Amphion actually begins to like decelerate a little bit harder to fall back behind you relative, quite a ways to increase the distance from you to him, but decrease the intercept time between him and the bogies. And see if we can't dissuade them or convince them to head off in another direction. And
Chester,
Thomas, you especially would like just looking at this sheer numbers alone. That's if they turn hostile, that's darn near suicide. The targets coming in would have to be deaf, dumb, and stupid to not be able to, pick them apart.
So, before I say anything in reply, I'm going to turn to the rest of the crew and I'm going to say, guys, if they aren't friendly, Yancey's going to last about 30 seconds in that firefight, and then they're going to burn past him and come after us.
Chester starts flipping the power switches to the PDCs to on.
In this case, it's not just the right thing to do, it's the logical thing to do, that we stick with them, give them a hand.
Then
any objections?
As this is happening and you're having this conversation, you would hear from the otter, Captain Phoebe, as well. MCR and Amphion, UNN Otter, through any communication between like the Otter and the Amphion have been like by the book regulation, formal. There's been no, even over any time over the last couple of days, how would she say that? No objections from us. And again, you can see the otter beginning to do the same maneuver, falling back to cover a little bit. Raiders like this cause a problem for UNN traffic and need identified at the very least and dealt with at the in the best case.
Yeah, so does anyone have any objections to joining in?
I don't think so. And she looks down. Is Kai creeping again?
Only on you, June.
He would kind of be shadowing, standing there in the doorway again, and would be looking at you, and you can tell June's perceptive enough that you can tell part of them would want to argue to like cut and run and let them deal with it. But he has been around long enough that he kind of he's still working on whether he feels like he's a member of the crew, even though he isn't. And he's also aware that he's not in a position to tell you what to do. So he's dealing with his own approach to this at the moment.
Mm-hmm. She just she takes it in. She gives him a slight twitch of the head, just kind of sorry, man. I know that you know these things, and I know that you know that you don't have a say here.
Yeah.
But she is kind of also, I want you to know that I thought of you. This.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
But yeah,
a lot of nonverbal communication happening in a very short period of time.
Yep. I think we'll stick around because apparently whatever this is our fault. And that might have been a little pointed to Kai, but that she, that's how she feels. None of this was a problem until they found that stupid little thing, and they've been under attack the entire time.
So yeah, I'm gonna spin the ship around and fall in behind.
We're all in suits, right? All of us.
If you're not, get in one soon.
Yeah. Well, I think that everybody's been in suits for the past 2 or 3 days.
Okay. Chester's going to sound the vacuum alert and start pumping the atmosphere out of the ship to prevent shock transmission.
Yep.
Into holding tanks. I'm not just venting it out into space. I want to keep the air.
Yes. That's the goal is to keep the air. It's just, keep it contained at this point. Now, I will say, given our experiences in the past with space combat, that this much, all of this in play all at once, we could be here for many, many hours, following it out, turn by turn, round by round, torpedo by torpedo. We can certainly jump into that if that's what folks want to do, or we can take a little bit more of a narrative approach to it. Because the 3 of your ships combined are a pretty reasonable weight of firepower.
We're almost a light cruiser altogether.
Mm-hmm. And if everybody continues working together in a reasonable fashion, more PDCs are better. That's, I think, a known fact of space combat.
Can we network in with the Amphion and or the Otter and allow them to use our fire control to refine their own with PDCs and other stuff? Is that a thing we can do?
If you were to make the offer, and that's what, if we take a more narrative approach, there will still be rolls that we'll make. We'll just kind of move through the fight a little more narratively. So to start with, if there are things that you want to do to, what are the approaches? What are the things that you do? And if that would be Chester's thought, would be to initiate that sort of connection.
I would obviously ask June and Thomas first, and Nigel. I guess he has an opinion too.
It may be a case of less refining fire control and just more integrating the PDCs. So, for instance, we don't all try and engage the same missile kind of thing.
Yeah, whatever. That's kind of what I meant. So that we can all fire our PDCs at whatever needs to be fired at, and we don't double up too much on the missiles.
Yeah.
I'm fine with whatever will keep most people alive.
Nigel would like to take this moment to remind everyone that we would know more about these ships if we had a fancy data core.
Chester for 30 seconds.
Well, but June looks at Nigel, and then she looks at Kai, and she goes, "We still have it." Nigel.
But it's not plugged
Yes,
in.
we're not using it.
I don't know how well Chester pipes in on the conversation, says, Kai, would it even help against Belter ships?
Assuming they are Belter.
No one else flies ships that small that fast.
You say that? What if they have some kind of... Let's just say I was part of a few experiments with some very early generation composite hull coatings.
They'd still be
It
uniform.
could be.
Great,
They
perfect.
may not be.
Kai, would it help?
I mean, maybe.
Plug it in.
I don't really know exactly what it does. I just
Plug it in.
Let's find out.
Okay, give it to Nigel, please, because Nigel knows more about it than you do, I guess.
given the fact that June is asking, I'm not even going to make you roll for it.
Kai is smootin'.
He's a good portion of the way there at the very least.
June
But
is
he
irresistible.
will head go back into his cabin and then would be coming back out with the core. So Nigel, you can be working on however it is you plan to integrate this thing into your ship's systems. Or if you immediately go over in a corner, plug it back in and start playing chess. That's up to you.
The whole ship just starts playing chess. Arms come out and it starts moving the OPA ships around.
Chester, if you want to, at this point, any of the communications with the other two ships would have shifted to tight beam.
Yeah.
Because it's usually not a good idea to, be broadcasting your plans directly out into the open for everybody to hear. And something tells you that the Otter is not going to be sharing UNN, scramble.
Right. So, Chester switches over to the tight beam. Tight beams both ships. Suggests that they coordinate PTC fire through their fire control computers with whatever magic wizardry works with that. Also says that for intents and purposes here, Thomas and June are going to be busy. I'll go ahead and handle liaison duties because otherwise I just sit here and be nervous. So he's going to be the point of contact for good news and relay important information from June and Thomas to the other two ships.
Yep. At this point, you don't actually speak to the captains of either of the other vessels because in the same fashion, they are now somewhat busy. You get a green light back pretty quick from the Amphion in that basically whatever you're willing to contribute, whatever data you want to send, they're happy to use and kind of reciprocate in kind. The Otter is a little slower to do so, but you do get at least a verbal confirmation back, and you start getting some data from them as far as what they would be targeting. But they're not tying quite as much in as you and the Amphion are.
Yeah. So I'm putting out into the tight beams our fire control data, not control of our fire control systems, and then also what our PDCs are targeting, and also the suggestions that Good News' fire control computer has for what to do, because all of this stuff happens so fast the computers basically handle all of it. We decide what to do and the ships just do it.
Yep. And that you get the fact that essentially what you're seeing then is that you and the Amphion are operating not as close as two MCRN ships are, because you're not set up to quite integrate as closely. But as much as any one civilian ship can work with an MCRN ship, you're doing so. The Otter is a little less so. While they're willing to fight next to you, they're still not necessarily going to trust either of you farther than they can throw your ships.
Yeah, well, and also the Phantom's an old ship and probably doesn't have the level of networking capability that newer ships do.
That's also possible.
Which is the benefit of the doubt that Chester gives them.
There you go.
Because it's comforting to him.
But it's definitely there is still communication back and forth between. At the very least, being able to, oh, you're targeting them with the torpedo. Okay, we don't need to, or we'll hit them at the same time and try to overwhelm their PDC.
Let's see.
So
We have 1 torpedo tube. Phantom has 2. Amphion has 1 or 2.
Hold on. I have to go back. That's a Morgana. What I recall.
Yep. 2 tubes.
Oh,
2.
man.
Okay.
I'm trying to decide whether or not at this point Scarlett would have Carter like on the actual ship trying to shoot things with
No,
his gun.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't.
or if he would be trying to contact these ships.
I think
his
more
own
likely
way.
that.
Yeah, like I feel like he'd at least be trying to contact them to be like, hey, I'm on this ship. I don't know if that means anything to you, but it probably should. But I don't know.
Yeah. Don't you know
See,
who I am?
Yeah,
I
pretty
would have
much.
expected Carter to not quite be leaning out the airlock shooting, but
That's what I meant, basically.
but
Yeah.
I think he probably is stood outside the airlock, because I do recall last time he had some ideas about leading a one-man
Yeah.
boarding action.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine Carter's probably, if not, do you know who I am? Literally just bellowing threats at them and trying to get them to break off in any way that
Yeah.
they can. Like, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. This only ends one
Warning
way. You know.
I'm warning you.
Yeah. Is there, like, could we roll something for him? Would that do anything?
Let's see.
Like, if we can get even just one ship to break off.
Yeah, like 1 or 2 ships being like, oh, shoot.
Yeah,
Nope.
he's got I think leadership and persuasion, so I definitely think he's got a focus here.
Yeah, and he's former OPA
Mm-hmm.
and a politician in the, I mean, like, they'd know who he was.
Yeah. So he could do a communication persuasion roll.
Okay. It's a 12 with a 2. Oh, that didn't. Hold on. Let me. Since I did that.
So add. Oh no. Okay. So yeah, ability, focus. Okay.
Yep. I did it. Between his 2 focuses, he definitely has a focus there.
Yeah.
And let's see. A 12. That's. One of the ships starts, of the half dozen or so that are coming at you, starts to, kind of lag behind. Like they might not be pushing their throttle quite as hard as the rest of the group. And it will likely, like, if they continue at that rate, they're not like crash decelerating, but they are definitely lagging far enough behind the rest of them that the rest of them will probably enter into hostilities first, if that is indeed the intent, which it would appear to. It would kind of put them in a position that if it looks like it's going well, they'd be able to kick back in and, yeah, guys, whatever.
Typical
but if things don't go
belters.
well, they can GTFO. They're so you've definitely got at least one of them kind of fallen back out of the formation that's coming at you.
Why am I suddenly reminded of that scene in the Jack Reacher film? Where does he get out? Never mind then.
Nigel, go ahead, and because you haven't actually integrated the data core directly into the ship yet, so go ahead and roll probably like an intelligence technology.
Sure.
Does
So
Nigel
Nigel
roll
would have,
anything else?
Yeah, as
Nigel
Nigel
doesn't roll
is
anything else.
actively hotwiring the ship as you're headed into combat. What's the worst? Nothing bad could possibly happen.
Nothing bad, because at this point, all Nigel's done is just visited Duster Boyfriend Mark II and come upstairs and started just randomly plugging in data core bits.
Duster Boyfriend Mark II.
Nigel would have actually said that out loud.
I think he would have.
I have nothing to say to you.
Okay. I have to admit, I was really kind of hoping for a low roll on that one because I wanted to see, the expanse equivalent of circuit breakers getting tripped. But a 16 with a 4 on the drama die. To put that into perspective, that is right between a hard and a formidable on the difficulty test scale. So yeah, you very quickly managed to integrate the data core into your sensors. I guess as far as you want to hook it up, you're able to do. So how thoroughly integrated is the data core into the Good News systems at this point?
So this data core, Nigel would be frantically plugging everything in right next to the ship's transponder and tight beam communications. So everything's hooked up. The sensors, the communications, the transponder, everything except for the weapons are connected directly to the data core.
Okay. And so what would begin displaying is as it suddenly takes this input that you've provided it, and like you would have to go in and it immediately wants to flag the Amphion as ally. And then the contact for the Otter comes up as like an unknown at first. You would have to manually trigger that as a friendly, which I assume you do.
Yes.
Yes.
It's Nigel. I'm going to ask.
You interrupted my chess game. Now you die.
It would then start providing some what would amount to suggestions as far as placement for, your ship, the Amphion, the Otter, as well as, breaking down target information as far as like who targets what, when, things like this. It can't do anything because it's not plugged into those systems, but it would be providing those suggestions to, well, I guess you did put it on tight beam, didn't it?
I
Didn't
did.
you?
They're suddenly getting a lot more information from us.
Yeah, they are getting a lot of information from you.
Oops.
There's a lot happening right now. There will probably be some questions come up from this later, but there you go. It's, hey.
Thomas is really good. Okay, he's really good.
No, the computer's really good. We have a very upgraded computer.
It
knows exactly what
Look, we
going
found
about.
the ship. It was like that when we got here.
That's why we like it so much and why everybody keeps trying to get us, okay?
Ship play chess real good.
So there we go. Let's see. I think Chester, Thomas, June, anything in particular as we're kind of setting up?
I think June is probably watching Kai, who is likely trying much harder to get into that space to watch what's happening.
I mean, is Carter up with us?
No.
So there's one more
Carter's-
seat then. If Kai wants to sit up here next to his girlfriend, he can.
I think I think it would also be the fact the room, but there's also the fact that he's not a member of the crew, and he doesn't want to make the assumption of just coming up on the bridge. You get that hesitation from him.
Right. But my guess is as much as he can see, he's trying to see.
Well, he would.
He has a
would be
repeater if he's in a
over
seat.
He'd be in one of the chairs down on the next level down, and even if he can't directly interact, you would be able to pull up repeater displays on pretty much any chair in the ship. To at least let you know what's going on. So he's clued in as well as he would be anywhere from there. But if you wanted to invite him to the bridge, you would still have time for him to make that transition.
As much as, everybody here loves to make assumptions, they're not boyfriend and girlfriend, and so she doesn't invite him. But
They're just friends that kiss sometimes.
what the heck? Like,
I'm joking. I'm teasing you. Why are you so
Anyway.
upset?
It's just like there's been so many things in this particular run where somebody has made an assumption and everybody else has just like rolled with it. I'm so tired of it.
This is
Anyway,
tabletop.
So kind of like with Nigel not liking women and just robots, like I didn't hear Final say anything.
I just went with it.
Yes,
I know.
and
See,
yes,
that's what I'm saying.
and it's a drama rule.
Oh my gosh, but not that hard of a drama rule. Anyway, you don't get to make assumptions of other people's characters. So June is just watching his reactions and trying to gauge if he expected this or not.
Go ahead and roll a intuition. 13. Up there. You would gather when he said he didn't know exactly how it worked, that he was expecting something like this, but not anything quite to the scale of what you're seeing it do.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he had an idea of what was going to happen, but exactly how effective it is, he probably hasn't seen it in action before. You know, the difference between reading about something, like reading what something can do, and then actually seeing it do it.
Okay. So she locks that reaction in mind, just kind of like, he's a little bit surprised about this. Cool. So he had no idea, well, kind of an idea of how powerful this would be, but not. She might ask him about it later, but anyway, so that's her main thing that she did, other than trying to help out with possible fighting stuff that might be going on, because I know we're not like rolling everything.
Yep. And then Thomas, anything?
Not really. I think Thomas is mostly focused on the impending fight, sort of.
Okay. You would have been setting yourself up, combat positioning, and then suddenly started getting all of this advice from the data core as Nigel hooks it up. That pretty good ideas, actually. As far as tactics, positioning, and whatnot.
Thomas follows it, but only grudgingly, because they're not his ideas.
There you go. So, and at this point, you would enter into, kind of that maximum, weapon range, and whether you guys, would or not, but both the Amphion and the Otter, open up. There is return fire. It turns into a bit of a skirmish, but at least in the initial salvos, the weight of torpedo fire in either direction is, not, if not equal, it's respectable both directions. But the fact that the three of you seem to be coordinating on, PDC and defensive measures, there's not really any of the incoming fire that reaches. Whereas, you managed to start scoring hits very quickly between the three of you on the incoming ships. And they very quickly realize that they are very much out of their depth. And, the one that fell back very quickly makes the decision to go and bye, and just basically alters trajectory a little bit and just lights off his drive, trying to sort of obliquely open distance and get as far away from this cluster as absolutely possible. I would assume that if any of them look like they're trying to escape, that the good news is going to be open to the possibility of running them down and not letting them, or I'm the Amphion would kind of follow your lead on that front. The Otter is 100% happy to hunt down pirates and eliminate them to their heart's content.
And these guys have never once responded to any of the communications that we made on them.
There was never any demands made, never any. They came in, and even Carter's attempts to bully, threaten, or cajole them into opening up communications. You would gather they had no interest in talking from the outset. But between the fact that the three of you are working together, and especially with that data core thrown in, most of your three ships, the MCR, the Amphion, the Otter, and the Good News, come out with barely their paint scratched. All things considered.
Woohoo!
Booyah.
Might have been different if we didn't plug in that thing.
Yeah, that definitely helped. There were things that it saw that you probably wouldn't have recognized otherwise. That definitely changed things when you guys made that decision. That was big. As the fight winds down, the Otter, without really saying anything, would appear to be attempting to track down or run down that one ship that Carter managed to talk into rethinking their life choices.
Should have
there wasn't a
rethought them
goodbye.
earlier.
There wasn't,
I assume that that Thomas has lobbed a couple of long-range torpedoes after the same ship.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness. Damage-wise, how did we do?
barely any scratched paint, and of course the expended, PDC and torpedoes.
We're probably out of torpedoes at this point.
There was the fact that you had two line naval ships working with you with their PDCs, and that you had the drone involved, or not the drone, the drive involved. There was not a lot of firepower that was going to make it through that and the defensive ECM suites of either of the other ships.
Yes.
So you yeah, what would have been a stiff fight for the Amphion alone, a bit of a challenge for the Amphion and the Otter working semi together, was just a slobbering with all three of you involved cooperating, and the drones, or the drive, throwing out ideas.
Okay. So June, after all of that, she's like, well, first of all, it's much more humid and hot, even than it was before.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like, okay, we're alive. Let's hope we don't have too many questions coming our way about why we're alive.
Indeed. Chester just kind of opens a channel to both of them. I think we're okay to go back to Ganymede. If you guys don't need anything else from us, we actually do have a cargo that needs to get there, despite so many people trying to murder us. Is everyone okay on your vessels? Mm-hmm. Well, I know everyone's okay on our ship. I'm talking to them. I don't care about you guys. No, I do. I really do care about you guys. But
the Otter would respond, and again, it's still not the captain directly. It would probably be their comms officer. Basically sending back a pretty boilerplate no damage, and relaying their intent to put down this last pirate. The Amphion, you'd get a little bit more. Again, it's not the captain. It would be another officer on the bridge still at this point, but it would be a little more personable, response. Minimal damage, some bumps and scrapes from some of the maneuvers, but nothing out of the ordinary.
That's good to hear. Thank you both for helping save our skins as well as each other's skins. This is it's kind of heartening to see this level of cooperation. I know things are tense right now politically, but I think we all did well out there today.
At this point, you would get Captain Yancey back over the comm. Well, there's nothing like a common enemy to bring folks together. And at this point, I wouldn't wish to. And why I should ask: is this over like radio broadcast, or is this?
Yeah, I'm talking to both of them radio broadcast.
Okay. I wouldn't wish to insult our UNN compatriots by offering to assist. I think they have things reasonably well under control, but if you don't have any objections, we will return to at least seeing you the rest of the way to Ganymede. And June, you would hear in his voice, unlike when Captain Phoebe asked about objections before, it would seem like he is genuinely asking. Like, if you say, no, we got this, there's no telling that he's not going to go ahead and shadow you from further away, but he's not going to force the issue.
Sure. Okay, so June actually is going to pipe in at this point, because she, her brain was like, wait, who gave you permission to have the comms, Chester?
That's the dude.
I know. But as far as official, anytime he starts going off on, oh yeah, this was good, we did a good job, team, she always has this, oh my gosh, Chester feeling. But she comes in, she goes, we have no objection to having you come along with us. You've been a fantastic compatriot in the past few days, and so we absolutely have no issue with that if that is something you would like to do. But please don't feel pressured to do so.
That is heartening to hear. I think, actually, now that I've reviewed some of the after-action reports from my departments, we will accompany you all the way into Ganymede and, put in for some minor repairs of our own. I would... it would be my pleasure to invite you all aboard for a meal once more when we arrive. There's a little bit more of an edge to his voice when he says that, given I got questions and I don't want to ask them over open. Yeah.
Chester doesn't hear the edge and just fist pumps in the air.
June just kind of goes, understood, and we look forward to a nice meal.
Splendid. And then he would regretfully inform you that he needs to step away from the comms, and we'll turn you back over to the comms officer to kind of set up back to a more standard holding position as you would make the next 12-18 hours or so back into Ganymede. At this point, is there anything in the immediate aftermath of the fight that anybody wanted to do?
I'm going to mention that they probably know the shower. They probably know that we are more than just a regular ship in terms of combat capability and data analytics, because I might have had our computer on a tight beam with their computers for that battle to make sure that, we didn't hurt each other. They might know about the ball.
I don't know if they know about exactly the ball, but they know that, yes, we can do more than we should.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Nigel would check the logs on the data core to see if it learned anything about our friends.
It would have, like, when you go in to look, it would now have specific listings for, MCRN, Amphion, and UNN Otter, and it would have some, kind of specific information about, what exactly the ship is capable of.
June is gonna like look down and see Kai down there and just kind of be like, so they've got questions that they probably are gonna ask us at that dinner. We didn't have you come last time. I don't know if you want to come this time. What would you like to do? Would you like to just take the thing and run? We agreed that you could take it. Or do you want to see this through?
He's quiet for a moment as he's kind of weighing his options. As we get closer to Ganymede, I will try making contact with some folks that I know that should be operating in the area that might be able to provide some assistance. If not, we will cross that bridge as we get to it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go take a shower. See you guys later. She goes and does so.
Yep. Rebecca would have, basically once given the green light, would have, basically returned the ship to a non-combat footing. Started pumping the oxygen, the atmosphere back into the ship. And I guess if there's nothing anybody else wanted to do in the immediate aftermath, we'll kind of skip ahead. You arrive at Ganymede. You're provided docking coordinates. The Amphion would peel off, have official military docking stations elsewhere at the. So it's not like you're docked right next to each other. The captain would send along, basically confirming a time for a meal. As you are then that close to Ganymede, is there anything anybody wanted to do before I kind of take us into a little bit of the, I guess, epilogue? As you arrive at Ganymede, things will calm down a little bit.
Okay. I have a feeling like part of the epilogue is probably Carter's gonna leave. Is my guess. Carter probably has something set up. He's gonna go. But
Possible.
yeah. But I don't think June has anything in particular.
Okay. I guess Kai would relay as you get a little closer, as he's, made a couple of tight beam communication attempts. And while he doesn't get quite as much feedback as he would have been hoping for, he does agree to come along and sort of explain as best as he can to the captain any questions that the captain might have in official capacity. Anything else for anybody as you're setting up to dock?
Not really.
Okay.
Chester puts 2 of his oldest sets of coveralls in the recycler.
Aww.
Okay. You would dock with Ganymede, and then go through all of the paperwork and whatnot involved for that. You would be able to reach out to your business contact that you've arrived, and kind of start that process rolling. Although that's kind of a very secondary or tertiary thing, I think, on anybody's mind at this point. And you would, with Kai in tow, make your way to where the Amphion is docked. And given that it's a docking port specifically set aside for MCRN vessels, they have some security checkpoints to go through, and you would clear them. You would arrive. The captain does, invite you in. You have a meal. He very pointedly doesn't ask any questions until the meal is over. Well, actually, I have a question. Chester.
Yeah.
Do you bring a dish to pass to dinner this time?
I
Did you bring anything along?
I brought a dessert this time.
Okay.
I did
brought
my
dessert.
best approximation of chocolate chip cookies. The
Excellent.
chocolate might be made out of coffee grounds and something else, but it's close.
It still works. It still works.
Do you want me to roll for how good those are?
No, I don't think at this point. I don't think that's
Okay.
required. You do. I think Chester does exactly as well making those cookies as you say Chester does.
They are better than the desserts that are in the packs.
There you go.
They are not the real thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, the question becomes, how many people have had a real chocolate chip cookie to
Yeah.
compare it to?
June, probably,
June
out of
maybe?
June
everybody
has,
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of everybody here.
June's not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Chester is
but,
very pleased with himself.
The meal, winds down. There are many compliments towards Chester's cookies.
He is also wearing his one of his fancy suits, the
Okay.
dark blue one.
And then basically at that point, the captain would sort of delve into. He would first assure you that this is in no means an official inquiry, but he does have questions that he would. To not ask them, he would be, ignoring a point of his duty, is kind of the position that he's in. And so he would begin to ask where some of that analysis information came from, that you were able to feed across. Kai would. I assume. Do you guys kind of let Kai take the?
Yeah.
I
Center
think
stage
as
at
soon
that
as that
point?
question
Okay.
happens, everybody on the crew just looks at Kai.
Looks at Kai. Okay. And there, other than the fact that there was quite quickly another place set at the table, there was no comment made about the fact that Kai is there.
There's another person,
and then,
yeah.
that you brought somebody else along. It was just sort of taken in stride. He does, in a similar fashion to some of his original explanations to you guys, describe what he's dealing with without actually admitting to anything. It's June, especially, you pick up on, it's really rather impressive the way that Kai is able to kind of walk around a topic.
Mm-hmm.
And answer all of the questions, to make everybody happy without saying as much as he probably knows.
She, in her mind, she's like, we would make the best power couple.
And the captain would listen, ask a couple of questions, clarifications and whatnot. And then, kind of when it all wraps up, would look at all of you and would kind of nod his head a little bit. And, well, that explains a number of things that I've seen in the last couple of weeks. And if it would be beneficial, I believe that, and there's a couple of the other captain's officers are present, and would look across at the one that was introduced as his engineering officer. I believe some of the what we felt was minor damage initially might, under further inspection, require additional repair and attention at the yards back on Mars. If you would be interested in a lift back that direction, it would be the least that we could do. And Kai would kind of look at all of you as a final, are you really sure you're going to let me walk away with this thing kind of look?
One hand on Nigel's shoulder, like comforting.
Yeah. June just kind of looks at him and gives the slightest shrug of her shoulders.
Okay. And Kai would then turn back to the captain and accept. This is probably the quickest way he's going to get this thing back to where he would consider it safe, and it's no longer his problem anymore. So, with that said, the next span of time will go relatively quickly. He basically would return with you to the ship to collect it because he didn't bring it initially. So you will have an opportunity if there's anything that anybody wanted to say before he returns back to where the Amphion is docked.
Besides perhaps a oblique comment that should some portion of a slush fund as way of thank you to the crew end up in the joint bank accounts, we would not be opposed.
Kai would nod, and I'll see what I can do.
Chester just shakes his hand like that warm. You've had this handshake from like a minister or a priest or somebody. Mm-hmm. Both hands on the hand, big smile. Thank you for your help. I'm glad we met you. I wish our meeting had been slightly different, but I'm glad that I'm glad we encountered you. I think my life is better for having known you. I hope yours is too, for having no, and immediately stumbles off the verbal cliff that he always does after almost having a good moment.
Yep. Certainly more interesting. I hope wherever I end up next is a less exciting assignment, but I do, as I've said before, and I plan to put into my report when the time comes, is that you literally saved my life. If it hadn't been for you coming along when you did, I wouldn't be here right now, and who knows what would have happened. So I can definitely say that my life is much more interesting and much better for having met all of you.
Chester just smiles wider and hands him the bag of leftover cookies.
He will gladly accept.
June just kind of looks at him, nods, and she might just leave it at that unless he says something. She's not gonna pontificate.
I think at some point he would probably catch you when there's not a lot of other people around in immediate earshot, and just relay. Basically, if it'd been any other time, any other place, any other circumstances, he kind of would give a shrug, as far as maybe seeing if there was something here.
She has never had this happen before, not in this particular way, and so for her, like I got this feels like a rom-com, like he caught me to tell me. And she just kind of gets a little bit, she's caught off guard a bit, which doesn't happen.
Casablanca.
Yeah.
Here's looking at you, kid.
But it doesn't, she's caught off guard a little bit, which doesn't happen to her often, but then she regains her composure very quickly, and she goes, thank you for allowing me to get to know you a little bit better. And I hope to be able to maybe see you again at some point.
I do too. I don't know when or how that would happen, and hopefully it's a little bit mirroring his comments from before. A much less exciting set of circumstances. But,
I agree. And she makes a little bit of a joke about, hopefully the next time I see you, I won't have to try to decide whether or not I have to kill you or not.
Yeah, that would be appreciated, and hopefully that is the case. But if history's anything to tell, I'd probably be able to know where I can find you. I'll just look for the explosions.
Oh yes, you'll find explosions of some kind, no matter where we are. Apparently. Anyway, good luck to you, and I hope, for your sake and everybody else's sake who gets to have the privilege of having you aboard, that your next assignment is not as exciting as this one was.
Amen. And he laughs. And then I guess if nobody else had anything, he would make his way off the ship and kind of disappear into the crowds of Ganymede. Well, actually, no. There would be a couple of. They are not in uniform, but they are very obviously MCRN Marines that have been loitering. They escorted you back, and they are escorting him there to provide some security. So,
Chester hands one of them a crayon.
There's just this raised eyebrow, and they shake their head.
So all that will happen is June will just kind of watch him disappear. Yep. And then she's going back to the ship.
Yep. With
always
that,
have Ganymede.
Yep.
I love it.
At this point, things just settle down into a almost monotonously normal routine for a couple of days. You make arrangements with your contact to get the cargo unloaded, and it makes you a reasonable amount of money. Nothing to write home about, all things considered. But there would be some funds there. And I guess the question I have going forward, and I don't want to speak for Scarlett one way or the other, so Carter may or may not bid you all farewell at this point, but what would be your plans going forward?
June feels an obligation to stick with the ship for now, because she has a contract with Carol, so she's staying with the ship. And if that makes her captain for real, then so be it. She hates it, but so be it.
Chester is finally really feeling like he belongs on the ship. He feels like this is something that he was, not necessarily something he was called to do, but definitely something that feels right as he does it. And he hasn't felt this purpose, this feeling of belonging and kind of, feeling like he's in place since he was in the MCRN early on, when he was still, bright-eyed recruit and didn't know anything. But he intends to stay with the ship and learn as much about working the ship as possible, and continues with limited success to try and domesticate Rebecca.
Okay.
As she teaches him machiney stuff.
Okay. Easy enough to do. So you at least between the two, I guess, Thomas, Nigel?
Thomas starts having a spirited discussion with Rebecca with a tape measure, trying to work out where they can add more armor blade guns and torpedo launchers.
Rebecca treats it more like an intellectual exercise, and just would be sending back to you the like. You're aware of the impact that the extra mass of all of that would have on the ship, right? And if you want it to handle, like, she doesn't use any colorful language, but if you want, like, you would want the ship to maneuver and handle like a deaf and dumb pig, sure.
But it would be the angriest pig that ever lived.
It would.
It's a wild boy.
It would be.
They call him Mr. Pig.
Yeah. Just add that to the list for the next transponder change.
Mr. Pig.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise that would kind of be her standpoint, is just the impact that it would have on the performance of the ship from the engineering perspective. I think she would also somewhat resist a lot of it, because all of that extra armor plating and stuff would be extra things. Well, the armor plating would make it harder to maintain things from the outside, and all of the extra stuff that you want to attach to the ship is now things that she has to maintain. So she's not opposed to it, but she provides a very unbiased opinion as to the effects that it would have on the ship.
I feel that it will probably eventually compromise on some sort of single launch racking on the outside, with just torpedoes strapped onto it.
You would be able to go back and forth and eventually come up with a compromise where your engineer is not mad at you, but you get a little extra. You add some teeth. She would also point out that there might be a way to just upgrade the torpedo tube you have. Basically turn it into a quick launcher, if that's what kind of the goal is to put more out.
I mean, Thomas Thomas at this point probably turns around and goes, despite the word she uses, probably interprets that as, that means we can add a railgun there. I'm thinking full on sort of project manager who doesn't understand stuff.
She just looks at you like, do you have any idea how much power one of those takes?
It's like 3 Duracell AA batteries, is it?
She just... she really doesn't know what to do with you, because she's not really grasping, like, she legitimately thinks that you're making a serious suggestion and doesn't know what to do with you.
Thomas does think that is a genuine suggestion.
She would give you a very long list of the engineering challenges necessary to
just full info dump.
Yeah, you would get a report back that is just like, the structural bracing necessary, the power requirements, and like, if you want to do this, here's what it's going to take. It's not going to be cheap, and it's not going to be easy. So
something that Chester practices his machinery skills on is changing the galley up, that whole deck, to where the kitchen is more like an actual commercial kitchen. Obviously, there's no gas or anything, but there's like actual things to cook with, places to store real food, and a little like whatchamacallit, hydroponics area so they can grow some herbs and spices and things. And then the table, the long kind of like cafeteria table, he modifies it a little bit. It's not wood, but he paints it to look like it's wood. Ish. Okay, let's be honest, it's vinyl with a wrap on it, but to make it feel more like what he thinks a real like homestead kitchen would look like, despite having his table when he was growing up be a piece of plastic jutting out from a rock wall. But he's just trying to make this, like, because he's got in his head that he's this, like, he's a cook, he's an entertainer, he's happy, and everyone's happy for him, even though he's an idiot.
He has become Neelix. That's
Yes.
what I'm getting.
Only less annoying. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
I feel like at the end of this all, he's like, because he was having an identity crisis basically when we first met him, and now he's like running down Ganymede Station going, "I'm a cook."
But so from what I'm gathering, other than the question mark of what Scarlett would do with Carter, everybody plans to stay with the good news, at least in the near term. I don't have the name in front of me, but you've made some business contacts. Ganymede is large enough; you'd be able to find some other work. None of it is going to pay. It's not glamorous, but it'll pay the bills, kind of thing.
It's no Martian weaponry contraband.
Yeah.
Right. But it also less exciting than Martian, contraband.
And that's nice.
And time begins to move forward. You start, making some trips. And it's probably almost a month or so after you had, docked at Ganymede that time. And there is a message that comes into kind of the ship inbox, for lack of a better term, that doesn't have like any of the encoding on it to let you know where it came from. And it basically, there's not even a signature on it, but it just says, "I did what I could. Hopefully it's enough." And June would then soon thereafter get basically an alert from a banking alert that a deposit had been made.
Yay!
And it's not a small one. It's a pretty good sized, it could darn near it, if that's what everybody wanted to do, it would probably be enough to buy out your contract straight. And that you wouldn't have to worry about being beholden to Captain Carroll anymore, if that's what the crew wanted to do. So you would be left with a ship and the entire system as open to wherever it is you wanted to go.
Sweet.
And I think... Oh, go ahead.
She would let everybody know about this. She would tell Thomas first because it was like Thomas's prerogative. They'd probably, she'd probably have everybody come in and they'd figure it out together, but I don't think it matters. So
I think that's a good spot to let the theater of the mind of the viewers decide what our intrepid crew goes off to do.
They're still out there. The story has never come to a close. So, this story has, but their stories continue.
Their stories go on. They're still out there dreaming of starships and adventures.
So,
awesome.
I don't know where we're at on time, but if we wanted to take a quick break or if we want to jump straight into, I can answer
we have
questions.
About half an hour left in the stream.
Okay.
I'm going to grab a drink of water, but I don't, unless we all need to take a break, I'm okay with just jumping right into questions.
Okay. And chat, I'm watching, so if you've got them, feel free to throw them at me. If you've been along for the entire ride, hopefully you enjoyed it.
And if you haven't been around for the entire ride, let me just see if this works. Yep, there we go. There's our YouTube channel, and it has the rest of this series called Defy the Stars.
Yep.
It is in our
tabletop
playlist.
series with an ending.
DE says, totally not throwing a challenge or any shade at any other tabletop streams ever
never.
on the internet.
Never. They all finish all the time. The words, "We'll see you next week," have never hurt me in a terrible, terrible, brutal way.
Anywho, yeah.
Yeah, so my question, because what I want to do, and I don't know how far away in the future this will be, because I have an idea for a setting for a campaign in this system. When you come up with campaign ideas, do you mostly just grab adventures and then just tweak them a little bit? Or how much, I guess, writing do you end up doing? Because like from our perspective, we didn't look at any of the material that could have been done. Like honestly, if we kept on going, there's a shoe-in for the Ganymede insurance job that we could do. But you know, we don't want to keep this as the infinite tabletop game because you have things to do, and I just, you know, I'm just wondering how to turn my ideas into a campaign, because I've never really done that before. I can write a script, but
it depends on the campaign for me. I have run stuff for other systems, D&D 5e mostly, that is straight at one of their published modules. I'm using the information they give me. Even with those, there's a fair amount of tap dancing you have to do around what the party actually does, because they're going to go in directions that the book can't possibly recognize, and so it becomes a matter of taking and you know, maneuvering a little bit. I also have campaigns where I created the setting, you know, players had input, I've taken their ideas, we roll it all together, and as far as the story, the narrative, and the direction it's going, it's 100% me. But it's very much then driven by what the players do from one session to the next. I'm usually at that point looking at what's a general goal direction that I want to go, and then I have that several sessions out that I'm looking in that direction. But in the short term, from one session to the next, I'm just kind of responding to what the players did. For this one, I started with, it's a published adventure from Green Ronin that's called Salvage Op. That was the initial setup for, you know, finding the ship in the state that it was. From there, since that was written as a self-contained, very short sort of story, I had to then, okay, what are the motivations in play? What led that ship to be where it was that made, and give explanations that made sense in the setting, in the time, because for the Expanse, a ship found the way you found what became the good news. The how and the why of that would change very much depending on when in the timeline, as far as the published you know, books and the show you are, or the options that you had for it, and how close you wanted to get to some of the things that they deal with in the show and in the books. And so that was like, that's why I was pulling you guys about how close you wanted to land to establish events and how much you wanted to interact with certain things, because I wanted it to be a story that you guys were interested in. Because I can sit down and write all of this stuff out and make all of the decisions, and, you know, I can just write a book, but that's no fun for me. So from there, it was a matter of then taking those explanations, and then, okay, how is that going to turn into a longer, you know, narrative than what I had? Because the salvage op doesn't give you any, you know, the character that became Kai was there.
I did read that after we got through salvage op. I did give a poke and see what bad thing could happen.
Yeah, the you know, that character was there, but in a shorter term, I wouldn't have drug out, you know, where basically that it took so long for him to wake up. That was a much shorter term thing to answer questions that the party might have at that point. But that was a bit of an unknown that I wanted to take further. So that's an example of how I took what I was given and I went a different direction with it.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice: is you need to know where you start, because that's how you're going to determine, you know, like when I was asking you guys questions about, okay, how would your characters, after you came up with who they were, have ended up on a ship like the Shakespeare? And what role did you have on that ship? And I tried to make sure that, coming from lots of different directions, there were lots of options of how you would be there. So you have your start point. You kind of want to have an idea of what's going on in the background, like what's the big thing that you're going to interact with. And it's okay to leave that kind of nebulous and kind of wait for the party to figure it out and then, you know, run with it. but having a general idea of the direction that you want to run with it, or at least what's going on in the background. And then it becomes an exercise in, okay, how do the party bump into those things that are happening around them that are beyond their reach to sort of interact with and impact, and also the things that are directly there that they can, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just I don't want to talk about my idea because you might be a player if you're available when I start doing it. And I think it would be fun to reverse the roles here. And I know because you're a GM, you often don't get to play that often. So
I am actually quite fortunate. There's, you get into tabletop and a talk of the forever GMs, the ones that never get to come out on the other side of the table. I am fortunate that with, the Armco community and, some other communities that I'm in, that I actually have like a lot of opportunities to play. So I'm certainly not going to say no. But that is, the more you can get involved, if it's something that you enjoy doing, that's kind of the way you branch out. And you find those other groups, you get to see other people GM. I love to see how other people like lead stories. Because we all do it differently. Even folks, I interact with folks that I play in games for that we see very eye to eye on how things should go. But the way they run a story is very different than the way I run one.
I also had an idea. I hadn't talked to Nab about this at all. I had the idea of she and I could be like dual GM. We would be the GM because honestly, my best storytelling is when she's there to moderate my idiocy. So
it's June and Chester in real life.
Yeah, only I'm not quite as much of an idiot as Chester is.
No.
Chester's character is very much based on like 19-year-old me. If 19-year-old me had never made certain changes in his life. So it was easy to go back to Chester.
There is, I always find, and I always attempt to bring some aspect of myself into all of the characters that I play. It may not be a big part, but it does help to create, when you jump into a character and have to step into one, especially one, when you've got, it's amazing how even like 2 weeks is a lot of time in between sessions, being able to step into, okay, this is who this person is. Actually then play them and not just be you. But it's also very easy to have a character suddenly become you and you don't even I played a lot of characters that ended up being very, very similar before that happened.
I can see I can definitely see how that happens. Like this campaign, it was a struggle for me to not just constantly flirt with Nab's character because I constantly flirt with Nab.
Yeah.
It was just kind of funny because our chemistry is just always there, and it was like, no, these are different people. But yeah, that was kind of fun. But yeah, I look forward to dipping my toes in the water, and I'll probably grab myself a Foundry license so I can do all the stuff myself, and I want to try and get in there and see if I can get some of the 2D map makers and stuff, and so there'd be more visuals and things because I would like to stream that as well.
Yeah, that is something I don't do.
Hey, Captain Tucker.
I don't do maps well. It's a little easier when you're dealing with, hey, here's the ship. You're going to be on the ship for weeks at a time. But I tend to default very much to the theater of the mind. I appreciate everybody coming along for that ride.
Oh, theater of the mind is great. I mean, not everybody has the time or resources to make maps. Because when people think of streamed games, there's it's like, what is it? Something 20, and then there's Critical
Dimension
Role.
20.
Dimension 20 and Critical Role, and those are the two big ones. And they have a lot of resources that most people who play tabletop don't. There are a lot of people who make their own miniatures and do stuff like that, but like I ain't got time for that. And most people don't. And so the vast majority of tabletop games are theater of the mind. So I was happy to have this be theater of the mind because from what I've noticed for these longer format streams where there's some kind of story element, and even some of our other streams where it's actually gameplay, people throw it up on another monitor and are not even looking at it, and they're just listening. Or they've got it on in the background while they're walking around doing chores and stuff. So theater of the mind is really conducive to that kind of thing. On the other hand, it is also kind of nice to be able to see people's reactions and things. But I don't want to set the precedent by turning on my webcam for me, because I don't want other people to feel any kind of pressure to show a face or anything on their end either.
Yeah.
So will probably still be mystery face DE, although my face is not a mystery. It is very much it's right here on the microphone right here. It's yeah. Candor, you have more of a face plate.
But I guess as far as does anybody have any questions as far as the story went? I think everybody had a pretty good idea of what was going on by the end as far as what you were interacting with. But did anybody want any clarification about, hey, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Or anything like that?
My assumption was the Belters at the end were somehow related to the pirates that we blew up. And they were like, oh, you think you can get away with that? And we're like, well, I don't think I can, but my buddies from the two biggest navies in the solar system say that you have to leave us alone.
Yep, that was, going back to what I mentioned as far as what was the explanation, was I wanted to have something like, okay, what is something that if you look at the MCRN, the UNN, and the OPA, that everybody is going to be very, very interested in, but isn't maybe quite at the same level that you saw in the shows, reading the books, and getting into the things that the crew of the Rossi got into. And so that's what I think everybody had it pretty well pegged. It was a MCRN analysis system that was being transported that would essentially allow them to be very, very efficient in how they deploy their navy. Because if you don't need, like, if you're building 20 ships of a specific class, but you only need 15, you've wasted the resources building those other 5. And it struck me that as a very, Martian thing to want to be as efficient as possible. And so that was what it had been developed to do. It was being moved. There was an attempt by some UNN elements to get their hands on it, which led to the drone accident. Kai was not the only agent aboard the ship originally. Unfortunately, the one that was there attempting to do things for the UNN was not very good at what he did.
Like staying alive.
Overly thorough in eliminating the crew of the ship. And so that's what led to the initial setup. And then you were being the first ship that you torpedo partied when it finally decided to try to take a piece out of you for real. Was one that the reason for the UNN transponder that was found is it was, while it wasn't a line UNN ship or actively crewed by UNN personnel, it was basically a proxy for UNN intelligence kind of thing. They were who was supposed to rendezvous with the other ship, but the Shakespeare showed up first. So that was kind of the setup there. And then that was why, if you guys had decided not to poke it and find out what it was and just dump it or just ignore it, just because you don't doesn't mean that, somebody else out there doesn't know that you have it. Or even if you had dumped it, if they believed that you dumped it in space somewhere, whether they would believe the story would continue even if you didn't actually have it.
I'm just glad that we plugged it in, because the mental image of the power up bar going all the way up to maximum, and then the ship's like, oh, look, a torpedo. One bullet from a PDC just takes it out. One bullet from
The good news being the equivalent of I know Kung Fu.
Basically, yeah. The good news is I am the one, Mr. Pig.
But that was what was going on there. So the rest of the MCRN, the Amphion, had no idea what was going on. He was way out of his pay grade, at that point. And even the Phantom showing up there, or the Phantom class, the Otter showing up there at the end, had no idea what was going on. Basically, I was like, well, what would a UNN ship do if they saw a civilian ship being closely followed or escorted by an MCRN ship they are 100% going to stick their nose in that to find out what's going on.
Oh yeah,
Just to, you know,
very
become a
much
power
South
play.
China Sea situation is what I was the vibes I was getting.
Yes, that was the Captain Phoebe did not trust the Martians any further than she could, you know, throw a torpedo. But you know,
Turns
it was a
out
matter
Phantom's
of,
actually
okay,
pretty good at throwing torpedoes.
well, well, on her own.
Yeah,
not
I
with
know. I'm
the
just
ship. Yes.
being difficult because
Nope, that's okay.
that's who I am.
But that was the reason for that showing up as well. Okay, I didn't wanted something interesting to happen, and I was kind of interested to see what you guys did when. Okay, the stress level, we kind of have this figured out. Oh, MCRN shows up. We have to answer questions. Okay, now we've got that figured out. Oh, now the UN now just really, you know, cranking the stress level up a little bit. I was not 100% sure if you were going to like join and turning to engage, or if you were gonna just like, nope, they're gonna fall back, they're gonna cover us, and we're gonna get out of here. So,
I think, like, I didn't want to see the Amphion destroyed because you share a meal with somebody. It's so funny.
yep.
You share a meal with somebody, even an NPC, a not real person, and they become more real to you and you care about them. It's so interesting how that works.
Well, and I was gonna mention, if you know, like at the end of it all, this crew, even if they're like, oh, this is dumb, you know, like they have all gone through shared trauma, and trauma bonding is a real thing.
Yep.
And so I feel like even if people didn't get along, they're still like, well, you're still my people because we hardcore trauma bonded. So
Oh yes.
That we did.
What do you mean trauma? Thomas had a whale of a time.
of course.
Well,
Thomas
yes.
got to shoot all of the torpedoes.
Trauma is relative.
So yeah, that was it's usually for me when I'm setting up an encounter, even for something like this, and this is what I've come to really enjoy about the Expanse as a setting. And you know, when I was first diving in, okay, what is it to tell a story in this setting? And I think even the original creators, they're like, it's the people, like that's what makes the stories happen. And so okay, you've got all of this stuff going on, and how are this group of people going to handle that? And it's just a matter of, okay, I'd put things in front of you guys. You could have opened fire on the Amphion, and I just would have rolled with it, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know how this stuff was going to end, but and even in other things, I'm like, well, here's the encounter. I try not to have a predetermined, like, okay, I'm only going to plan for them to do this, because nobody ever does what the GM expects.
I still wish we'd been allowed to go and board the one at Tycho.
That would have been interesting. I did have some other stuff in mind that I wanted to do as I had ideas as things progressed on Tycho. There was other things happening there, but I wanted to move the story along. We'd spent enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really fell into the shopping trap on Tycho a little bit.
You know, the shopping trap, but there was the whole thing with the ship that you were taking over for to move cargo.
Yeah.
There was a whole thread there that I had some notes on. I'm like,
noticed.
no, I think we kind of need to leave that, because I follow a lot of the games that I run have been going for a very, very long time, and I'm used to, hey, I had this is make for an interesting story. Let's kind of squeeze that in. I was like, nope, I need to focus. So that's the other thing when you're looking at the scale of the amount of time you want to spend, because that'll determine how much time you can spend on individual like plot threads. So
Yeah, my plan is once I fill out the setting a little bit more, because it's not exactly, I guess you would say, canon. But
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. But once I fill out the plot, the world a little bit more, I would just want to have, like, okay, the story thread A, story thread B, story thread C, and whichever one or ones they pick up, then that's just what happens.
That's a good way to do it. And I would also recommend, as you first go to jump in, set up a couple of things to be like one-shots.
Yeah.
So you don't get overcommitted, because I've seen that happen to folks who are like, oh, I'm going to jump into this big long thing, and then they get into it and they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What did I do? So
Yeah, I also think that whenever this happens, we'll probably stream it on the YouTube channel instead of on Twitch, because it's a Nab and me thing this whole time. And while it's been fun to do this, and we just throw it onto the channel anyway, I think if it's just on the YouTube channel, it saves time. I don't have to edit anything down. Chat's saved there. I don't have to have it up on the screen. I can just do whatever, and it works. It just works, you know. So that's stuff and things I'm thinking about in the future. And then I'll probably make some questions and do some pokes and setting ideas in our tabletop chat that wouldn't give any like campaign ideas away, but I basically just need to know the people that are interested if they've read all the Expanse books, because it's post last Expanse book basically.
I have not, I can tell you that, but
yeah.
I'm perfectly happy to learn what's going on. I can very easily play somebody that is absolutely clueless as to what's going on around him, because I do that every day in real life. So,
how did I get out of bed this morning? I can't remember.
Yeah. So I'm not opposed to not knowing what's going on, and it just helps that then I just ask, hey, what do I know about this? And then you can tell me. Yeah. So at least there's my response. So
okay. Well, awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions? Because I think we probably need to wrap up here, because we're 6 minutes over our normal end time, and I know Final's got a thing soon.
Yep.
So
Yes, many things.
all the stuff and things.
All right.
Yep.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for watching. This has been a blast. Yeah. Thanks again, Squirrel, for just bringing us on an adventure.
Yes.
Something that I've never
thank you very
done.
much.
I think several of us have never done before. So
You are very welcome. Like I said, I told you before, this was GMing on easy mode, because I could just put something in front of you and then stand back and I didn't have to touch it. You guys took it and ran with it.
There are a few theater people in the group, I think.
I've been in groups where you kind of have to cajole and push, and folks get kind of stuck with the analysis paralysis of everything. It's you realize that, hey, I can do anything I want here. I don't know what to do, and they shut down. And you guys recognized when that was happening and just naturally moved with it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, and I thank you guys for coming along for the ride and inviting me to lead you on it.
Yeah, thank you to all of the players, and especially the baby is freaking out. Please, also, if you are watching this afterward on the YouTube channel, if you have questions, go ahead and post them, and we will do our best to answer them, and maybe we'll talk.
Oh, she's got questions, and it's when is the milk?
The milk has been coming. I'm not sure what the problem is.
All right, everybody have a great weekend, and thanks for being with us on this adventure. Farewell.
Tune in 10 now for the Deadly Salvage tabletop game.
Yep, that's about what it would be.
Yeah.
Oh boy.